Imagine brainstorming a groundbreaking healthcare app with the person you trust most, your husband, only to scroll through social media and discover he's celebrating a $1 million contract he secretly signed with his ex, selling the very idea you created together. Tonight's story peels back the glossy posts to expose betrayal, revenge, and the courtroom showdown that left him bankrupt and me victorious for the world to witness. When Nathan and I first met, our conversations always spiraled toward two passions we shared: tech entrepreneurship and holistic wellness. He was a charismatic software engineer who could sketch an intuitive interface on a napkin. I was a registered dietitian obsessed with data-driven habits. Over late-night ramen in our cramped Boston apartment, we decided to merge those passions into a single vision: a mobile app that wouldn't just count steps or calories, but would learn each user's routines and nudge them gently, intelligently toward sustainable health goals. We called the concept ThriveSync. I drafted nutrition algorithms that adjusted meal plans in real time when a user skipped breakfast or grabbed fast food. Nathan mocked up playful animations, a tiny plant sprouting new leaves every time a user hit a weekly milestone. The more we built, the more it felt like we were coding our own future financial independence. A family, maybe a cottage on Cape Cod where we could test beta versions on unsuspecting friends over lobster rolls. But real life crowded in. I still clocked 40 hours a week at the hospital, and Nathan freelanced to keep rent paid. Investor meetings were the logical next step, yet just thinking about polished pitch decks made my heartbeat ratchet up. Nathan, always attuned to my anxiety, offered a perfect solution one rainy Thursday. "Let me pitch it, Liv. It's just slides and handshakes. You hate handshakes." He wasn't wrong. My palms sweat at the prospect of VC boardrooms. Plus, Nathan's smile could sell sand in a sandbox. So while I refined our intellectual property document source code repos, my nutrition matrices, timestamps galore, he rehearsed in front of our cat Pixel, timing every joke. A month later, Nathan announced we'd landed a private session with Beacon Ventures, a mid-size firm known for seed-stage health tech. The catch: the meeting was in New York. "No worries," he said, brushing crumbs off his hoodie. "I'll take the train down Saturday, wow, then be back for brunch." Saturday came, he left, and I exhaled, then spent 5 mind-numbing hours editing a hospital workshop slideshow. At 4 p.m., Nathan texted, "Crushed it. Investors love ThriveSync." Decompressing with coffee. Call later, I sent a cascade of confetti emojis. That evening, we dissected the meeting over FaceTime. Nathan's eyes gleamed. Beacon's senior partner, Rob, said we're exactly what their portfolio lacks: AI-powered preventive care. They'll need a deeper look at the IP. But we're golden. "Did you sign anything?" I asked. "Just an NDA, all standard. You'd be proud I protected our baby." I was proud. I even started Googling casual Cape properties' guilty daydreams that made Monday's fluorescent hospital halls bearable. 2 Fridays later, I was doom-scrolling before bed when a photo on LinkedIn froze my thumb mid-swipe. The caption read, "Thrilled to welcome ThriveSync to our portfolio. Exciting times ahead for preventive health." Beacon Ventures had posted it. Center frame stood Rob, arm draped around Nathan. But my gaze jerked to the third person: Sabrina Holt, Nathan's ex-girlfriend from college, now a venture consultant notorious for flipping startups. They all clutched champagne flutes. On the table lay a leather-bound contract signed in bold strokes. Beacon's logo blazed in the background. My stomach pitched. Nathan hadn't mentioned a second meeting, much less Sabrina. The familiar ache of jealousy was instantly overshadowed by something colder dread. I clicked Sabrina's profile. Her headline had just changed to co-founder and strategic lead, ThriveSync Health. Co-founder. I reloaded the page, half hoping it would vanish like a bad dream. It didn't. Likes and congratulatory comments multiplied as I stared. Nathan came home after midnight, buzzing with energy that smelled faintly of bourbon. I sat on the couch, photo pulled up on my laptop like Exhibit A. His grin faltered. "What's wrong?" "Tell me Sabrina isn't our new partner." Silence thicker than storm clouds. He rubbed his neck. "Liv, listen. Beacon wanted someone with a proven fundraising record. Sabrina's network is Sabrina stole your dorm fridge in 2016 and ghosted you for a blockchain guru." The memory tasted sour. Nathan dropped his bag. Investors insisted. "She's temporary. We keep majority equity." I zoomed in on the signature line below: ownership transfer of proprietary source code. Nathan's name was there alone. Mine. Absent. My pulse hammered in my ears. You sold them the code. My voice cracked. Our code. It's still ours collectively. Legally, I demanded. He hesitated, a micro-flinch that told me everything. Grief and rage burned through me in alternating waves that night, but fury ran out of oxygen quickly. Strategy didn't. By dawn, I began pulling every receipt of my contribution dated Git commits, proving I authored 72% of the core algorithm. Slack logs where I'd pitched the original plant sprout UX, email threads with beta testers addressed exclusively from my account. I encrypted backups to 2 external drives and dumped the contents onto a private cloud. Then I called Marta Delgado, an IP attorney I'd met at a hospital seminar on digital health compliance. She answered on the second ring. Olivia, it's 7 a.m. on Saturday. Emergency. Someone just stole my future, I said, steady but hollow. And I can prove it. Marta inhaled sharply. Okay, start from the beginning and email every shred of evidence timestamped unedited. We'll file a provisional copyright claim by Monday. Sunday afternoon, while Nathan texted me lukewarm apologies from Sabrina's strategy off-site, Marta and I compiled a 67-page dossier. Version, histories, prototype screenshots, even my original notebook sketches photographed under daylight to capture ink patina. She organized them into a chronological narrative that any judge or jury could follow like breadcrumbs leading to a single truth. ThriveSync was my intellectual property, and Nathan had sold it without consent. By the time Nathan walked through the door Sunday night, suitcase in hand, Marta had already e-filed the complaint in federal court. A process server would greet him with papers Monday morning. The look on his face when I told him shock, then pleading, then anger, but mostly disbelief that the woman who'd once feared investor handshakes could weaponize the legal system so swiftly. I was done fearing. ThriveSync and my future were worth fighting for. Our marriage. That verdict was already written in disappearing ink. Part 2. Lawyers, Leverage, and the Art of Watching Bridges Burn. 940 words. The Monday service of process arrived with the subtlety of a thunderclap. At 8:13 a.m., a stout courier in a windbreaker rang our doorbell, confirmed Nathan's identity, and handed him a manila envelope stamped United States District Court Intellectual Property Division. His cheeks blanched as he flipped through the pages. I was already lacing my sneakers. Witnessing panic this early felt indecent. "In no way you filed a lawsuit," he stammered. "I warned you," I said, voice level. "This isn't just an app. It's my career, my name." I shut the door behind me and jogged to the hospital, adrenaline masking exhaustion. By lunchtime, Marta texted defendants have 21 days to answer. Expect phone calls. The first rang at 1:47 p.m. Nathan's number. I silenced it. The second at 2:06 was Beacon's and House Counsel. Straight to voicemail. I wanted them uncomfortable, aware momentum now belonged to me. Tuesday morning, I took personal leave to meet Marta in her paneled office overlooking the Charles River. She'd summoned a patent litigator, Caleb Rowe, a calm bulldog in cufflinks. Beacon will argue joint ownership, he predicted, sliding me coffee. Our job is to prove your contribution is both original and dominant. I can show 72% of the codebase is mine. Caleb smiled. Juries adore numbers. Marta added, "We're also seeking an injunction to freeze deployment. If granted, Beacon can't launch or demo the app." The thought of Sabrina's face when investors learned their new golden goose was legally gagged sent a pleasant shiver down my spine. That afternoon, our filing for preliminary injunction hit the docket. Tech blogs sniffed drama within hours. Dietitian sues husband VC firm over stolen health app IP, blared TechCrunch. Comments split between "go get him girl" and "she's tanking her own startup out of spite." Noise but noise in my favor. Wednesday night, I returned to find Nathan seated on the couch, apartment dark, but for the TV's blue haze. He rose hands up. "Liv, we can settle. Beacon will buy you out 7 figures. A year ago, the phrase 7 figures would have tasted like champagne. Tonight, it was lukewarm tap water. Sell my copyright so you two can parade ThriveSync around CES Hard Pass. His jaw twitched. "You'll drag us both through court for pride for justice," I corrected. "And ownership. 2 things you undervalued." He exhaled through his nose. "Beacon has war chest lawyers. Sabrina's already courting press sympathy female founder versus bitter wife. I almost laughed. Funny, I remember being the female founder until you erased my name. I walked past him to the bedroom, locking the door, though it hardly mattered. Something larger between us had already slammed shut. By week 3, formal discovery began. Caleb subpoenaed Beacon's internal emails. What returned was a goldmine. In one thread, Sabrina wrote, "Nathan's wife is technical but timid. Her piece is replaceable if we massage the cap table." In another, Rob from Beacon replied, "Secure the code. Now clean up equity later." Caleb's grin when he forwarded those excerpts could have powered a small city. "Jury loves a villain," he quipped. We also deposed Nathan under oath. Watching him sweat in that sterile conference room felt surreal. When Caleb produced Git commit logs timestamped 3 a.m., hospital break rooms, Nathan admitted I'd authored most nutritional logic yet claimed he'd orchestrated the ecosystem. Caleb's eyebrow flicked. The court reporter's keys clacked like a metronome of doom. Beacon's counsel tried pivoting. "Isn't it true your wife agreed to let you handle business affairs?" I leaned forward, letting silence underline the absurdity. Caleb responded, "Handling business doesn't include forging signatures." 2 days later, our injunction hearing convened. I sat behind counsel as Judge Albright's silver-haired, famously tech-savvy examined exhibits. Beacon's lawyer argued blocking launch would irreparably harm public access to preventive health innovation. Caleb rose. "Your Honor, innovation built on theft does not serve the public, Ms." Holt and Beacon took code. They never owned, removed the developer's name, and attempted to profit before she noticed. He tapped the email printouts. Their own correspondence celebrates replacing her. Judge Albright adjusted his glasses. "Counsel, explain this line. Secure the code, now clean up equity later." Beacon's attorney sputtered about informal language. Unimpressed, the judge granted the injunction. No demos, no marketing, all assets frozen pending trial. Social media lit up like July 4th, Beacon slapped down an IP theft scandal. Sabrina's LinkedIn headline quietly reverted to strategic consultant. Legal pressure squeezed Beacon's patience faster than I anticipated. Investors feared contagion. 2 withdrew from the fund. Sabrina's other clients ghosted her. Nathan, now toxic by association, lost his freelance gigs. Rent suddenly loomed. One drizzly Thursday, he showed up at my temporary sublet I'd moved out. His voice cracked Beacon's, forcing me to indemnify them for your damages. I could lose everything. Actions. Consequences. I replied, though a small part of me grieved the boy who once doodled carrot icons beside my nutrition tables. He knelt. "If I testify that your sole creator, will you drop personal claims against me?" It was Caleb who later clarified the leverage. Nathan turning star witness would cripple Beacon's defense and Sabrina's credibility. I slept on it heart heavy, then agreed conditional on full asset transfer of his remaining equity to me and a public apology recorded on video. Saturday in our former living room, lights tripod mounted. Nathan faced the lens. Voice trembling, he admitted, "Olivia Harris is the original and primary creator of ThriveSync. I wrongfully sold her intellectual property without consent. I'm deeply sorry." He pressed upload. Within an hour, tech Twitter erupted. Hashtags #Thrive, Sync Truth, and #IP Respect trended. 3 weeks before trial, Beacon folded. Their offer, a public statement acknowledging my sole authorship, $4.2 million in damages, plus a 7% equity stake in any future Beacon Health Tech Fund non-dilutable. Sabrina forfeited her consultant fee and signed a non-competition agreement barring her from AI health startups for 5 years. Marta popped champagne in her office. Caleb wryly toasted to the power of receipts. I deposited the check, then donated a slice to a scholarship for women coders. Headlines proclaimed solo founder topples VC Goliath. Yet victory felt less like fireworks, more like firm soil after quicksand, solid, necessary, not extravagant. Nathan and I finalized divorce papers quietly. He moved west to regroup. I kept Pixel the cat in my peace. ThriveSync rebranded Rooted You soft launched 6 months later, this time under one founder, one vision and a legal footnote echoing through Silicon Alley. Never underestimate the quiet partner writing code at 3 a.m. And whenever I demo the app's little plant sprouting new leaves, I remember the night I turned betrayal into leverage, proving that ownership isn't given by charm nor seized by deceit, it's earned line by line, choice by choice, until even the darkest bridge you burn lights the way forward. I used to think the hardest part of any startup journey was ideation, those fever dream brainstorming sessions where 1,000 half-formed concepts fight for survival. After Beacon's collapse and the court settlement, I learned a tougher truth. Reconstruction tests you even more than creation. When the dust settled, I wasn't simply a victorious plaintiff. I was a solo founder holding a once tainted product that needed both technical and moral rehabilitation. Caleb and Marta advised a forensic audit of every line in the ThriveSync repository, now rebranded Rooted You. Their concern, Beacon's engineers had tweaked features during their brief possession, and legal due diligence required stripping any code I hadn't personally authored or overseen. So I hunkered down in a co-working loft that smelled of burnt espresso and ambition, headphones clamped tight, pixel curled on a sweatshirt beside my keyboard. Day after day, I combed through thousands of commits annotating each function. Where Sabrina's contractor had bolted on a flashy but brittle gamification module, I ripped it out, replacing it with cleaner code that better fit my original vision. Gentle behavioral nudges, not dopamine-spiking gimmicks. I documented everything, committing with messages like removed third-party streaks module, non-compliant with privacy goals. The revision history didn't just satisfy legal hygiene, it exorcised ghosts. By month's end, Rooted U's codebase was 93% mine, 7% open source under permissive licenses, 0% Beacon. My conscience felt lighter than it had in a year. Legal victory doesn't automatically translate to public goodwill. Many in the tech echo chamber still saw Rooted You as that scandal app. I needed a reputational pivot. Enter Boston Women in Tech Summit, where I applied to speak under the session title, Safeguarding IP and Mental Health as a Solo Founder. The organizers accepted, perhaps intrigued by the headline potential. On stage, I told my story without villains' names, focusing on takeaways, document contributions, trust your anxiety radar, and differentiate between healthy delegation and blind surrender. I ended by demoing Rooted U's plant animation, now with translucent leaves symbolizing transparency, while unveiling a beta waiting list. Applause erupted, followed by a line of attendees wanting selfies. More important signups spiked 800 users in 48 hours, all organic. Later that evening, the summit's keynote speaker, a renowned cardiologist turned angel investor, slipped me her card. Preventive health that respects privacy. "Call me when you're ready for seed funding," she said. The next morning, TechCrunch ran a new headline from courtroom to keynote: how Olivia Harris rerouted her wellness app. The shift from scandal to comeback had begun. I'd proven I could survive alone, but scaling demanded allies. Hiring again felt like stepping onto thin ice after nearly drowning. I set 3 ironclad criteria. 1. Documented competence. 2. Emotional intelligence. 3. A signed founder's agreement that enshrined clear IP boundaries. First aboard was Amaya Chin, a machine learning engineer with a public GitHub bursting with open-source nutrition models. She'd commented on my Summit Talk thread, critiquing my reinforcement learning approach with constructive candor. Our first Zoom ran long as we swapped TensorFlow horror stories and family recipes. Trust sparked, rooted in mutual respect, not charm. Next came Jules Ramirez, a user experience designer who'd left a unicorn startup after it installed manipulative engagement loops. Jules sketched Rooted U's new onboarding flow on a digital whiteboard: minimal data entry, immediate value, zero guilt. People need gentle guidance, not another judge in their pocket, they said. My shoulders unclenched. They got it. Rounding out the trio was Dr. Priya Shah, a behavioral psychologist from Tufts who'd published on habit formation and self-compassion. She offered part-time consulting, vowing to safeguard Rooted You from the crash diet traps plaguing wellness apps. Our Slack workspace launched under the channel motto, Grow Together. Atop every doc we inserted a footer, all contributions logged. Ownership transparent, bureaucratic maybe. But clarity is cheaper than court. The cardiologist angel investor Dr. Lena Ford proved more than a polite promise. In our first pitch meeting, she grilled us on data encryption protocols and diversity of training datasets. Satisfied, she wrote a $750,000 seed check contingent on an independent privacy audit every 6 months. Most founders might balk at added oversight. I welcomed it like a booster shot. With runway secured, we declined overtures from larger VCs who dangled bigger valuations but sneered at our stringent user consent screens. One partner joked people click accept, they don't read. I flashed to Beacon's emails and politely ended the call. Instead, we secured smaller amounts from mission-aligned funds, health equity angels, and moms in Tech Collective. Our cap table became a quilt of operators who valued patient outcomes over vanity metrics. That alignment kept us honest when growth temptations beckoned. We released Rooted U Beta to 5,000 early adopters. Jana, an ICU nurse in Chicago, messaged app gently reminded me to drink water after a double shift didn't feel naggy. Positive sign. Others flagged bugs. The plant animation lagged on older Android models. The breakfast skip detection misfired for intermittent fasters. We triaged issues in real time, pushing nightly updates. Amaya joked we were watering our code as faithfully as users watered themselves. 1 month in retention sat at 74% rare air for wellness apps. User-reported stress scores dropped 12% on average. Dr. Shaw cautioned correlation wasn't causation, but the trends heartened us. Just as momentum surged, a familiar specter resurfaced. An anonymous tipster emailed me court filings. Sabrina Holt was petitioning for bankruptcy discharge, listing the Rooted U settlement debt as undue hardship. If approved, she could avoid paying a cent of her $600,000 liability. I forwarded the doc to Caleb. He replied minutes later, "We can challenge." Her hardship claim hinges on ongoing consultancy income being non-existent. Let's verify. He subpoenaed financials. Turns out Sabrina had signed a lucrative contract with a European medtech incubator 3 weeks earlier, hidden behind an LLC. Perjury meat receipts. The bankruptcy judge denied her petition, citing bad faith concealment of assets. Tech press feasted on the schadenfreude, but I issued no public comment. Rooted, you had evolved beyond the feud. Still, the outcome underscored our mission. Transparency wins longevity. 12 months post-beta active users crossed 250,000. Server costs ballooned, prompting offers from big tech's cloud programs, each bundled with analytics tools that mined user behavior deeper than we deemed ethical. We negotiated a bare metal hosting deal instead, accepting higher ops overhead to maintain full data sovereignty. Investors raised eyebrows. We raised documentation showing privacy was our brand moat. We rolled out Rooted U circles, allowing friends or coworkers to share milestones selectively. Unlike typical social features, circles required double opt-in and hid calorie counts to prevent comparison spirals. Press coverage labeled it the anti-vanity metric network. Revenue arrived via optional premium insights, predictive meal planning, telenutrition consults with vetted dietitians. Conversion hit a modest but steady 4%, enough to keep us profitable without ads. When an ad network dangled a multi-million-dollar deal to inject relevant snack promotions, Dr. Shaw quipped, "Selling chips next to hydration nudges defeats the point. Offer declined." Work consumed me, but healing demanded space beyond code reviews. My therapist assigned me a non-optimization hobby. I chose pottery, slow tactile, gloriously analog. Shaping clay reminded me that creation can tolerate imperfections. Some cracks even become kintsugi gold. Socially, I struggled. At networking events, compliments on my legendary lawsuit felt like poking a bruise. Eventually, I confided in Amaya and Jules, who dragged me to trivia nights where nobody cared about seed rounds. One evening, after we missed a question about 1980s sitcoms, Jules laughed so hard they spilled beer on my phone. For once, data loss felt freeing. As for Nathan, our paths rarely crossed. He emailed once, forwarding a photo of Pixel as a kitten with the subject line, "Hope he's well." I replied politely, attaching a recent photo of Pixel perched on my desk beside a thriving potted fern, the real-world counterpart to Rooted U's digital sprout. 2 years after the lawsuit, the annual Digital Health Awards shortlisted Rooted U for Best Consumer Wellness App. The gala glittered with CEOs touting billion-dollar valuations, but our table buzzed with imposter syndrome and excitement in equal measure. When the host opened the envelope and announced Rooted U, I felt a seismic jolt, not of vindication over Nathan or Sabrina, but of collective triumph with my new team. On stage, I thanked users for choosing mindful progress over quick fixes, investors for funding ethics at scale, and my team for writing trust into every line of code. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. And inside, a quieter victory unfolded. I no longer defined success by defense against betrayal, but by the community we nurtured. Prize money and publicity accelerated growth plans. We formed Rooted U Labs, an R&D arm experimenting with personalized stress reduction audio generated from users' ambient noise levels entirely on device to protect privacy. Dr. Ford connected us with hospital systems eager for preventive platforms to reduce readmissions. Discussions began for pilot programs integrating Rooted U into discharge plans for cardiac patients. Yet every roadmap review ends with one slide, ethics check. It's a list of questions. Does this feature respect autonomy? Could data misuse harm users? Would past me have feared signing this deal only when answers align? Do we greenlight development? Trauma, I've learned, can calcify into dogma or refine into discipline. We choose discipline. When betrayal detonated my life, I assumed the debris would define me. Instead, it fertilized the ground for something sturdier. Rooted U isn't merely an app. It's proof that transparent ownership, empathetic design, and unwavering boundaries can coexist with growth. The plant icon, once a cute gimmick, now mirrors my journey, new leaves sprouting from trimmed stems, photosynthesizing pain into progress. So if you ever find yourself staring at a signed contract that erases your name, remember this. Injustice can steal your work, but it can't claim your worth. Gather your receipts, guard your vision, assemble allies who respect both, and keep building. Because the best revenge is not just living well, it's helping hundreds of thousands live better. One gentle nudge, one honest commit, one sprouting leaf at a time. A year after Rooted U Labs launched, the line between wellness app and clinical tool began to blur. Our user base exceeded 1 million, split almost evenly across the United States, Canada, and the UK. Support emails no longer asked only how to sync Fitbits. They now contained cardiac rehab updates, HbA1c readings, and physician's notes. The message was clear. Rooted U had crept beyond step counts and hydration reminders into territory where lives, not just lifestyles, were at stake. That realization triggered the most ambitious pivot yet. FDA Class 2 clearance for Rooted U's predictive nutrition module. It was a bureaucratic Everest, but necessary if we wanted hospitals to prescribe our platform post-discharge. Dr. Priya Shah led the charge, partnering with 2 teaching hospitals for a 12-month randomized controlled trial. Half the participants received standard care after cardiac stent placement. Half received Rooted U's tailored habit prompts plus teledietitian sessions. We measured modern 90-day readmission rates, quality of life scores, and serum lipid panels. The IRB paperwork alone rivaled a Tolstoy novel, but once approved, data rolled in. By month 6, interim analysis showed a 28% reduction in readmissions among Rooted U users. More striking, LDL cholesterol dropped an average of 22 mg/dl, triple the control group's improvement. Stats weren't anecdotes. They were fuel for regulators, insurers, and skeptics alike. Amaya authored white papers translating our machine learning algorithms, usually opaque to flowcharts a clinician could trust. Jules redesigned the dashboard for doctors' minimalist, colorblind safe graphs with actionable alerts instead of data deluges. Transparency again proved our sharpest blade. Clinical success invited courtship from electronic health record giants. Medicor, the market leader, proposed integrating Rooted U's backend via proprietary APIs at a preferred partner royalty. Their contract language mimicked Beacon's old hubris full code escrow unilateral termination rights. This time, I entered negotiations flanked by counsel and a new hire, Renee Walters, a former ONC policy analyst who could recite interoperability mandates like poetry. We insisted on FHIR-compliant endpoints, joint governance of updates, and a rev share model tied to documented patient outcomes. Medicor's negotiator scoffed, "No startup dictates terms to us." I calmly slid a dossier across the table, peer-reviewed trial data, hospital letters of intent, and a draft press release ready to announce our independent open AP. We're not a fitness widget. We're a clinical decision aid. Either partner equitably or compete. 3 weeks of silence followed, broken by Medicor returning, with nearly every point conceded. We signed a 5-year agreement that tech journalists later hailed as a blueprint for fair interoperability. While integration teams coded Silicon Valley's new gold rush generative AI heated up, venture blogs urged wellness apps to embed chatbots amplify engagement. Investors prodded us too. Imagine GPT-style meal coaching but Dr. Ford reminded us large language models hallucinate, and hallucinations in healthcare risk real harm. We formed an internal AI accountability council, half engineers, half clinicians, empowered to veto features that lacked rigorous guardrails. The council greenlit a narrow-scope chatbot named Sprout, confined to interpreting app data and linking to vetted educational articles, never prescribing meds, never diagnosing conditions. Each Sprout reply displayed citations and a "was this helpful" rating that retrained its confidence thresholds. One evening, Amaya flagged an edge case. Sprout suggested a keto recipe to a user flagged for chronic kidney disease. The council suspended the module within an hour, patched the diet filter, and published a post-mortem blog. Transparency cost us a day of bad headlines, but won a month of praise from clinicians tired of opaque AIs. At the next HIMSS conference, Rooted U's booth sat beside pharmaceutical titans. Hospital CIOs queued for demos. Nurses thanked us for coding compassion. We won Best in Show for patient engagement. Yet accolades carried weight. Each new contract amplified the risk of scale mistakes. I imposed a quarterly user narratives day. We shut laptops, phoned a cross-section of users, and listened. One call etched itself. A single mother in Des Moines described how Rooted U's bedtime routine tips calmed her asthma-prone daughter enough to reduce ER visits. Her gratitude humbled us and sharpened awareness that one bad update could unravel real lives. Just as Rooted. You seemed unstoppable. An email from Nathan. Weiss, idtechlabs.com pinged my inbox. I stared at the subject: proposal integrating Rooted U for rural clinics. Nathan, now CTO at a nonprofit accelerator, pitched collaboration to bring our platform to underserved regions. My pulse hiccuped, but curiosity outweighed residue of betrayal. We scheduled a video call. Nathan appeared tired, humbled, salt and pepper stubble framing contrite eyes. "I owe you more apologies than this meeting allows," he began, "but I've spent the past 3 years building open-source telehealth kits for areas where cell reception is a luxury. Your app could fill a massive preventive care gap." I weighed history against mission. Dr. Shah's voice echoed in my head. Growth without governance breeds regret. So I proposed ground rules: no equity exchange, open source fork governed by our accountability council. Nathan's team subject to regular audits. He agreed without hesitation. Amaya later asked if partnering risked reopening wounds. I replied, "Trust is renewable energy produced slowly, wasted quickly. We'll meter it." The board approved a 6-month pilot. Nathan's team deployed rugged tablets preloaded with Rooted U Lite across 15 rural clinics in Montana and New Mexico. Connectivity hiccups forced creative solutions offline. Caching, SMS-based goal summaries, solar-charged battery packs. Within 4 months, hypertension follow-up adherence climbed from 42% to 63%. Local clinicians reported patients felt seen between sparse appointments. A regional health commissioner requested expansion. NPR aired a segment titled "How a Plant-Themed App Sprouted Health Gains in Remote America." The story went viral, drawing philanthropic grants and sparking interest from India's Ministry of Health. Partnership with Nathan evolved into a cautious camaraderie. We kept conversations professional, though one sunset after a clinic tour he admitted, "Watching you build this, knowing I almost ruined it, has been my greatest lesson." I nodded, accepting the sentiment without absolution. Scaling abroad revealed a final frontier cultural nuance. Meal planning algorithms needed local food datasets. Behavioral nudges had to respect norms. We spun up Rooted U Global, hiring nutritionists from 5 continents, translating the app into 12 languages, and adding halal, vegetarian, and allergen-specific filters. Jules designed region-switch toggles. Amaya trained models on anonymized, diverse datasets to avoid bias. Our accountability council expanded internationally. The launch in India alone added 400,000 users in 3 months, but also flagged unexpected challenges like users with shared family phones needing separate privacy controls. We responded with PIN-protected profiles and an invisible mode for vulnerable users. With revenue topping $60 million and recurring contracts with 6 hospital systems, bankers circled whispering IPO. Going public could fund further global outreach, but also invite quarterly earnings pressures that throttle ethical pace. I assembled the board in a lakeside retreat phones off to debate. Dr. Ford advocated a delayed IPO build ironclad ethics infrastructure first, then list. Renee suggested a public benefit corporation status to lock mission. Investors fretted over restricted profit distribution. After 2 days, we voted pursue IPO plus PBC, allocating 5% of post-tax profits to preventive health scholarships. Wall Street would need to accept that clause or pass. The decision felt like threading a needle with barbed wire, yet everyone around the table signed. We would grow, but on our terms. 12 months later, the FDA granted Class 2 clearance, the culmination of endless documentation audits and stress streams. Rooted You became the first consumer origin wellness app officially certified as a post-discharge lifestyle therapy. Hospitals could now prescribe us alongside statins. The morning we received the approval letter, I gathered the team in our Boston office atrium. We projected the FDA seal onto a brick wall we used to tape whiteboards. Cheers, tears, confetti cannons, but also a collective exhale. Our plant logo, once a flicker on a napkin, had grown into an emblem of evidence-based care. Today, as I write these lines, Rooted, you servers ping across time zones, nudging someone in Manila to stand and stretch, reminding a retiree in Ohio to refill heart meds, and encouraging a teen in Nairobi to swap soda for water. Every nudge carries embedded lessons. Document ideas, defend them fiercely, share them wisely. People ask if I would erase the betrayal chapter given the chance. I wouldn't. Not because pain is noble, but because the boundaries I forged during that firestorm became scaffolding for an organization that refuses to trade privacy for profit or growth for gimmicks. Betrayal cracked the seed coat. Resilience let roots dig deep. Next quarter, we'll pilot an AI-driven mental health companion co-created with clinicians audited for bias, rolled out with opt-in transparency. The Accountability Council already blocked one prototype for drifting into diagnostic language. That friction, once frustrating, now feels like muscle memory protecting a collective heart. As for me, I still throw clay on weekends, the studio radio faint beneath the hush of wheels spinning. The kilns fire at night. By dawn, cooled vessels wait, each hardened by heat, none identical, all useful. They remind me that transformation requires both combustion and careful shaping. Rooted You has endured its furnace. Now we craft its future one ethical contour at a time. So if you ever wonder whether standing your ground is worth the sleepless nights, look for the small green leaf on a stranger's phone. It whispers an answer written in every gentle prompt. Growth follows integrity, and integrity once planted can turn even the deepest wound into fertile soil for millions. 3 weeks after the FDA announcement, I found myself back where the very first line of code for our app had been written, the tiny Boston apartment whose cracked windowsills still bore faint coffee ring stains from marathon brainstorming nights. The new tenant's grad students I'd never met graciously allowed me a brief visit after I emailed explaining the sentimental pull. As I stood in that narrow kitchen sunlight filtering through the same blinds that once rattled in winter drafts, I felt both larger and smaller than the memory larger for the journey. Rooted. You had taken smaller because the origin story fit into a space no wider than a subway car. Pixel had long since traded cramped quarters for a sun-splashed loft and now eyed the scene from his carrier with aristocratic boredom. But I could almost hear echoes of late-night coding sessions, the clack of keys, conflicted laughter, the sharp intake of breath each time an idea sparked. Rooted You's servers may now span continents, yet its heartbeat began right here. Proof that world-changing impact can sprout from an overstuffed one-bedroom and a stubborn refusal to compromise. Back at HQ, the team surprised me with a wall-sized infographic, a living timeline that began with concept ThriveSync and ended with FDA-cleared Rooted You 3 million users. The timeline left its final segment blank under the heading, Next Chapters Write Yours. They'd hung dry erase markers beneath. Engineers, clinicians, interns, all scribbled hopes integrate with school lunch programs, AI meal coach for seniors losing taste buds, climate-adaptive crop suggestions for small farms. The wall vibrated with possibility and reminded me leadership isn't a finish line, it's a relay. In that spirit, our board approved Rooted You Fellowship's year-long grants for underrepresented founders building ethical health tech. Each fellow receives funding mentorship and full access to our Accountability Council framework. Watching the inaugural cohort tour our office, their eyes flicking between excitement and apprehension, I felt a protective thrill. If my hardest lessons could save them, a fraction of the pain legacy would taste sweeter than any IPO. Success narratives often gloss over what they cost. Mine includes sleepless nights therapy receipts and the lingering throb of distrust that still flares when contracts hit my inbox. But cost doesn't cancel worth, it clarifies it. I've learned to keep a dual ledger, one column for achievements, one for boundaries that protect them. The moment a potential partnership threatens that equilibrium, whether through opaque data use or slippery equity terms, the conversation ends. No compromise is worth reopening the wound integrity healed. Nathan's rural clinic pilot, now entering its second year, keeps me grounded. We still audit each release. He still signs every compliance checklist. Healing there is incremental, measured in trust credits rather than dollars. We may never share forgiveness fully, but we share an outcome, lives improved in places both of us once overlooked. The next 12 months will challenge Rooted You in ways success stories rarely predict. Copycat apps scraping our interface, regulators tightening AI guidelines, economic swings testing subscription renewals, yet every challenge already has an answer, etched into our operating DNA document: rigorously test, compassionately iterate, transparently. Tech reporters ask what exit I envision. They expect a glossy phrase, global dominance, unicorn valuation. My answer is simpler distributed stewardship. If one day I step aside, Rooted You's mission must outlast any single founder. That's why we embedded an open governance clause into our bylaws, granting users a voice in major policy shifts. Think of it as democratizing wellness tech, letting the community prune or propagate features like gardeners of their own health. Maybe you're watching this video while sketching your first prototype on a diner napkin or nursing a hurt that feels too raw to transform into fuel. Maybe you're a coder, a dietitian, a nurse, a storyteller, wondering if your voice matters in a market loud with venture capital megaphones. Trust me, it does. Your receipts, your late-night drafts, your sense of justice, they are the seed stock future users will rely on. Don't discard them when gatekeepers scoff. Document them, guard them. Water them with small, consistent steps. And if betrayal or burnout threaten to choke your roots, remember, you're allowed to regroup, to seek allies who respect your boundaries, to say no until the right yes appears. Resilience isn't a solo act, it's a network of quiet commitments that hold when public applause fades. If this journey resonated, if you believe tech should serve people before profits, then I invite you to take 2 simple steps. Subscribe to our family story, My Husband channel right now by hitting the red button below. Each week, we unravel true tales of challenge, courage, and comeback stories that don't just entertain, but equip you with lessons for your own creative battles. Share this episode with one friend or colleague who's wrestling with an idea or injustice of their own. Let them know betrayal isn't the final chapter. It can be the prologue to something stronger. Your subscription fuels fresh content, your comments spark conversations, and your shares expand a community built on integrity and innovation. Together, we'll keep planting seeds of resilience, one story, one leaf, one line of code at a time. So are you ready to grow with us? Tap subscribe, ring that notification bell, and let's write the next chapter side by side.